How's it going, everyone? I'm Honan,
I'm over.
and welcome to the podcast again. I don't quite know how to label this one. I assume this
Yeah,
is.
quick, what episode number is this?
Yeah, 25, I think. maybe a little loose on that. And this is like news episode 2. We did kind of do a news one before, so this is like the second time we've kind of done general news coverage, I would say, in the
I'm trying
world.
to remember like what was happening when we last did one of these, and I feel like it was like when Girls' Generation had their comeback or
It was
something. It
stuff
was
like
a
that,
while
yeah.
ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a long time ago, yeah.
Um,
It was
but
happier
there's
news than what we're going to talk about today.
yeah.
It was.
Well, yeah. It's some sad news, some silly news. Some optimistic news, I guess, or we can put like an optimistic slant on it. But some stuff that I felt like was worthy of talking, and it's kind of like the situations are still very much developing. But I guess we're kind of at something of a middle point in the road, probably, and I'm sure we'll have to cover some more later on. But yeah, so the main thing we may as well just go straight into it is going to be the about Omega X. So if you are unaware, Omega X are an 11-member boy group formed by Spire Entertainment, who, as far as I'm aware, had no previous artists under their management. Um, they are made up primarily, or I think actually almost exclusively, of group members who had debuted in groups previously. I think only maybe one of them never he was in a pre-debut and then he didn't debut.
Yeah, I remember being shown in the lives like there are other groups they were in that disbanded, then they were in like Omega
Yeah,
X.
yeah. Almost all of them have disbanded or like are on indefinite hiatus type status. So we have groups like One the Nine, Spectrum, Inouye, and of course Snooper with their hit song "Platonic Love." Forever in my heart. To the point that when Stray K met them, when they were on their tour in the US, which actually was the kind of the impetus behind all of this, not Stray K meeting them, but their tour. She talked to the guy who was in Snoopers then and told him that I was a huge fan of Platonic Love, and he kind of laughed about it. He was like, Platonic Love. Like, don't disrespect the name of Platonic Love, sir. That song is timeless. Anyway, so they had a US and Latin America tour, um, which obviously is great. They've done pretty well, I would say. I think they kind of consistently get into around like the 100,000 albums sales area, which is great. Obviously, it's way better than any of them have done previously. So it's really kind of showing that it was a good decision for them to stay involved in the industry and keep trying to pursue their dream. And their tour, obviously, they weren't going to stadiums or arenas, but they were going to little venues, and people were turning up for them, which obviously is good to see. Um, but so it emerged while they were on tour that a fan had recorded audio of them uh, basically being abused by a woman who is believed to be a member of staff, and most people think is probably the former CEO, whose name I think is like Kang Seung Hee or something like that. Um, we'll just call her the CEO anyway.
Yeah.
So she's you can hear her yelling stuff like, have you ever done that for me? Like when I was going through a hard time, why didn't you help me? And you apparently one of the members collapses, and you hear her saying, "I've collapsed before. Get up." And it seems like basically some of the members were already exhausted and were being helped by the others. And she was like berating them about that, which is like
Yeah,
ridiculous
ridiculous.
in its own right. Um, so then after this emerged, then we had another emergence of a on Twitter of a user who saw them in Chile, And she wasn't a fan of theirs. She didn't know who they were. She just saw a bunch of guys being berated by a woman in a hotel in Chile and was like, "Who the hell is this? What's going on?" And recorded it because it was like a bit wild, to the point that her mum apparently stepped in to try and to stop this woman like beating these guys in this hotel. Um,
It's insane.
yeah, so
To me, that's
yeah,
that's worse. Like when someone doesn't even know who they are, but they thought it was so bad they should film it. You know what I mean? Like when they don't even know that's celebrities, but they're like, "This is bad. I'm gonna like pull out." You know what I mean? Like,
right, like to the point that it was enough of a scene that like
yeah,
if they felt the need to record it and talk about it or save it for posterity or whatever. So SBS, Korean news outlet, comes in and drops an expose on October 24th, in which they release a bunch of video clips showing the CEO and the kind of things that she was recording, because it was previously just audio, but now we had actual video of her doing the same kind of shit. So everyone's going, okay, well, clearly there's substance to this, and this is not fake. And she was yelling at them in a car park in LA. Basically, she said, "Do you think you're like losers like you can be loved by people? Are you big? You didn't come this far on your own." When Jaehan is the group's leader, he collapsed, and he was the member I think who collapsed before as well. That the members were helping, so clearly he's not not quite with it, not in a good state.
yeah.
She was like, "Are you that exhausted, Kim Jae-han? If you're always sick like this, you need to stop being a singer." And then there's a clip of her like grabbing him by the collar and like throwing him around and stuff. And you can see the other members are like trying to stop her from going at him and stuff. And it's just, in a way it looks ridiculous because it's like this tiny woman going in on 11 guys.
Yeah.
Like, but at the same time, you can see that there's like they're torn between that we need to respect or listen and not retaliate because she's our CEO.
Yeah, well, it's like a power dynamic. She's their boss.
Yeah,
You know, like
exactly.
they can't retaliate like a.
Yeah, exactly. So SBS revealed that they had called up the CEO and they talked to her. And she denied all of it. She claimed that the people who were sharing the clips on social media were anti-fans. They were just antis.
the one girl didn't even know who they were.
Yeah, no, she was an anti apparently, and we're just trying to like tarnish the groups and stuff like that. And she was like, "I was just asking them if they've ever helped me when I was having a hard time. It wasn't assault, blah blah blah." The same day, the Spire released a statement in which they claim that everything is resolved, that they talked and there were no problems and everything's fine.
Can I just say on that response of hers really quick? That's like the most unprofessional thing to say, like ever. Like,
yeah.
What kind of boss asks the person working below, "Have you ever helped me out when
Yeah.
I have an
And
office?"
it was so weird as well. She kept like the more the situation and the story developed, the more news outlets would call her and try and get in contact with her. So obviously they wanted to do interviews and whatnot. Well, the weirdest thing was, I feel like usually in these kinds of situations, you get the kind of, "Oh, we declined to comment," or "unavailable for comment." They don't answer and just leave it, right? But she would pick up, sometimes on video call, and just be like, "I'm too busy, I can't talk," and it was just, yeah.
At that point, you gotta assume they like the attention, I guess, or something, right? Like,
I have no idea. I have no idea. But the situation, kind of more details were revealed that it became apparent that Omega X had been stranded in America, that they didn't get their booked flight home for whatever reason. And it then emerged that the staff had all gotten on that flight without them. And then the members were forced to pay their own way back. So there were stories of the members having to call their parents to ask for money in order to pay their own flights and stuff. And you know how, I mean, I guess on the one hand, it's kind of funny or maybe sad that a group who sells 100,000 albums and is on a concert can't afford a flight and having to call mom and dad for money. But you know how flights are like, especially you want to walk into LAX and just buy a ticket to Seoul right now. Like you're looking at several $1,000s.
Yeah, it's
Like,
insane.
yeah,
It's like 4 grand if they wanted to walk in and do
yeah,
that.
yeah. Um, so that happened. um, and basically everyone was very suspicious of all of this, right? Um, and the spy said, or the CEO said, that they were discussing cancellation because their seats on the plane were going to mix with where fans were going to sit or something. So they were like, "Oh, we did it for their protection or whatever." But it's like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I, I, I don't know about that, Chief.
Press X to doubt. Like that's.
Yeah, press a mega X to that. Um, so it kind of quieted down for about a week or so. There wasn't much development until the members created a Instagram account themselves. They didn't have that one previously, or their personal Instagrams. They weren't using them during the time they were in Omega X. They had like the official account, and those official accounts usually managed by some social media manager for the company, and all the posts have to be verified and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not like the members can just log in and post freely. Um, so they made their own one and released their own statement, which obviously is quite a big step because up until that point, members had nothing had been said by the members at all. Not least because they didn't really have the means to do so. Um, so they came in and they said that they created a space for the fans, and they wanted to take responsibility and kind of talk about everything. And they admitted, they said that if we signed an agreement that if we uploaded any post to social media without consulting the company, we have to take civil and criminal legal responsibility. And they basically said that we have agreed that we are going to do that and that they're going to go to court over it. That because they've endured a lot of hardship and suffering under this company. That they also said that they really grateful for the fans who had mustered a big hashtag protect OmegaX, and were very vocal, of course, in spreading awareness to this. I feel like most of the K-pop world became aware of this quite quickly, even those who weren't fans of the group. They also said that they plan to stay together and continue to release music, so that's good. And then last week, oh, well, actually, right after that, Spire announced that the CEO had resigned and a new CEO had been appointed in her place, who's this dude who turns out to be her husband. So it's like how when Yang Hyun Suk resigned from YG when he was on trial, and then his brother and everyone's just like, well, how different
I'm
is
sure
this
they feel
really?
so much safer with her husband in charge, you know.
Yeah.
What a clown show to just be like, all right, we got rid of her. Her husband's taking over.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
god.
so the CEO, so they made the statement and they said that they certainly they did what they should have done right away. They said that they deeply apologize. They take full responsibility. They apologize for not responding well, and they want to do better, and they'll do what they can to prevent it from happening again. But it was already kind of too late. The damage had been done, and SBS was not done. SBS continued to release more and more evidence that they had found more video clips, more recorded text messages, voicemails, all this kinds of stuff. And basically just shows the CEO as being totally unhinged, like just insane. Like she would call them like dozens of times a day over every tiny little thing. She kind of treated them as like her own personal boy band, and she would use them to like basically provide fan service and cheer her up when she was feeling sad or stressed or whatever. Like it's really weird. Um, some stuff got in which was really murky in a legal sense, because it emerged that over the course of their tour some of the members tested positive for COVID, and they hid that. They didn't reveal it and forced them to perform anyway,
That
which
sounds illegal.
which is highly illegal. And obviously, if the
uh,
U.S. authorities had found out about that, then that would have been a really serious problem for them. They would have been presumably deported right away,
yeah.
and there would have been quite serious consequences. You have to imagine. Um, Not to mention, obviously, that would have cost the rest of the tour and would have been a big scandal in Korea in its own right. Anyway, there was her saying like, oh, like if you feel too sick, just do like 3 or 4 songs, or do like the slow songs and stuff like that. Just
That's probably
yeah,
why that dude was collapsing. I mean, when I had
right.
COVID, like if someone told me I had to get up, sing, and dance for like 2 hours, I'd have
But
been like,
yeah,
no, dude, like that's not
and
happening.
Mega X's music is like it's pretty hardcore. Like they go hard. Like the music is not easy.
I could not
No, at
imagine
least
with
the
like a
metal tracks
full
aren't.
fever body getting up and doing full choreography like that. That's insane to
Yeah,
me. Like that dude
yeah, it's
probably
nuts.
was like literally almost pushing himself to just like full blown like hospitalization at that
Yeah,
point.
it was him. Yeah, Jaehyun, Kevin, Hyuk, and Ye-chan would not perform in Chile for health reasons, but they didn't disclose that it was because they were infected with COVID. Um, there's a clip in which Jaehyun, who's the leader, the one who clapped, he's saying that he really like was uncomfortable with the idea of hiding the truth, and the CEO said, "Okay, if you keep challenging me, I'll cancel the whole tour." So yeah,
Do you know how she was the CEO in the first place? Is it like a amount of ownership she has in the company, or like was it like a job she got through? Like, does anybody talked about that? Like,
no,
it's just
they
interesting how she
only
ended up in the position to be so bad at it in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, usually, I don't know.
they were only set up in December of 2020, and Omega X debuted in June 2021. So there's very little information on where they came from or like how they ended up negotiating that whole process or whatever
Yeah,
beforehand.
I do have to wonder
Maybe
if her and her
somewhere,
husband
but
have like some kind of stake in the company or something like that. I don't know. Like some,
yeah,
it's how you could be so bad as a CEO. Like,
yeah.
I know it's pretty crazy.
Um, so last week they held a press conference at the Seoul Bar Association, which was quite a big deal to the point that another boy group. I just want to give a shout out for this because I think it's very admirable. So boy group Just Be, they were set, but to have a comeback on that day, on the day of they have a comeback showcase on the day of the hearing, and they decided to postpone it because they wanted to draw more attention to that to the press conference, which I think is just a really good like noble thing to do.
Yeah.
And I know that Just Be, I think they debuted on the same day, and so they have they feel like they have a bit of a brotherly bond or whatever, and they just wanted to direct attention to it. And I think it shows that uh, that people in the industry were really taking note of this. They wanted to make, and the reason they said they wanted to make sure that no journalist would have to choose between coming to their showcase or going to that hearing, and they wanted everyone to go to that hearing, which I think is a really good attitude. So shouts out to Just Be for that.
Yeah, that's dope.
um, so when they had this hearing, the members spoke kind of personally to the media for the first time, all through lawyers. It was a really bizarre thing because like they're in the Seoul Bar Association. It's like a little rooms for lawyers and stuff to do lawyer stuff. Getting an 11-member boy group into like a little room. Each one of them had their own lawyer. They didn't have like one collective lawyer. I think they maybe had one. Maybe they all under one legal team or like same company, but each one has their own individual representative. So there's 22 people, like, and they're all like, it's kind of funny just looking at them all together.
Just crowded into one tiny room. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but they, yeah, so they announced everything basically. Um, Jahan said that the reason that they hadn't said anything until now is simply because they were afraid that this was their last chance in the music industry after they'd all been through, trying and failing basically in previous groups that they felt like this was their last chance. And they, they didn't want to risk it. And it emerged that if they wanted to cancel their contracts or whatever, they were going to be looking at paying in the region of 200 to 300 million won. So I'll just put 250 million as a benchmark. That's 185,000 USD.
Oh, I'm sure they have that lying around,
If
some stock.
they can't afford the plane ticket, so I don't think they can afford to buy out their contracts.
Yeah, I'm very curious because they signed like legally binding contracts. So I'm very curious what kind of things can break that contract.
Well, exactly, and
Yeah,
that's what
like
the hearing is designed, or the court case is gonna find out. Um, so they revealed that they are terminating their exclusive contract, and which loses all legal effect starting from that day. That they're going to press charges and demand compensation. And they also, this is what the attorney said, they also hope that the young men's courage rings an alarming bell to the wrongs that have been ailing this society and help others overcome any mistreatment. And a lot of people are kind of looking at this. This is where the optimism comes in, I think. People are looking at this as if it might be the kind of a benchmark case to kind of help others who are maybe being mistreated in the
be
industry
like
as
the
well.
catalyst that just knocks all the dominoes over, basically for it. Yeah.
Yeah, because we had in the past, for example, like not about mistreatment, but there's always kind of been like one landmark case that then kind of sets a precedent for everyone else. Like when Tiara secured the rights to their name from MBK, that was the first time that an artist had really secured that they are the copyright holders of their artist name and not the company. And if they leave the company, they still have the rights to promote under their name and not have to change name. Which we've seen in the past, like with Beast having to rebrand as Highlight when they changed company. That kind of change from now on, and we've seen multiple groups who've left their companies and been able to keep their group name, like Got7, for example.
Yeah.
So people are hoping that this will be a similar thing where CEOs will no longer feel like they're invincible and that they can be held accountable. Which, like, it seems like you want to go fucking obviously,
You think it's common sense, but
yeah. So the members revealed kind of more and more stuff about what happened. Saying how she used to harass them during their training. She used to force them to drink. So she said that
that's illegal.
She used to, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, not like in the sense that they're underage or anything, but in the sense that it was just like they would go out, and she would be like, "Oh, if you don't drink with me, then I won't give you a comeback." Stuff like that. She basically would hold that over them always. Just like, yeah, it made them think like the only reason you're successful is because of me. None of you would have a career if it wasn't for me. And you should do what I tell you always. And they also said that she would sexually harass them by making sexual remarks towards them and touching their thighs and faces. Which I have to admit, when I saw the headline of like sexual harassment claims, sexual abuse claims, I was like, oh God, how bad is this? But I mean, obviously that's still bad, but it could have been worse. We've seen worse, unfortunately, in the past.
Yeah.
And yeah, they basically said that a lot of them are receiving therapy and treatment for trauma and anxiety and stuff that they have, to the point that that Hangyeon says that he has full on like panic attacks whenever he hears a phone vibrating because of how often she would call him.
Menacingly like, call Jesus. Them like yeah. Well, imagine your boss just hounding you all day with the most weird shit, like all the time. Gosh. Dude. Like, yeah. It's like you would be so messed up after that. Like your boss is just hanging your job over you constantly. Basically, that is so messed up.
Because and like obviously, even just in any situation, like your boss is your boss. Yeah. Like that relationship you have with your boss, you can be on good terms, obviously, but there's always that separation, you know.
There's a boundary and you don't cross it. Like that's,
yeah.
And she clearly just zoomed right over that boundary instantly.
Yeah, and that feeling that like, you know, they do hold power over you, that they control your job ultimately is your life, no matter what you're doing, and like the fact that that could be held over you and changed at a moment's notice, and the way they threatening you with that is terrifying, especially if your job is in the entertainment industry and
Well,
that's
for them,
like
I feel like
what
it's
you want to do.
exponentially worse because it's like to them, it's their last opportunity. So for them,
Mm,
they really feel like if does screw them over, they have nowhere else to go, basically.
yeah. Oh,
And
actually, it's the money that they were demanded was even worse. It's 300 to 400 million. So we're talking about 250,000 USD or more.
hmm.
300,000. Yeah.
I
Um.
really hope they rake that company through the
Yeah.
coals. Like it
Well,
would.
it was revealed that the company falsified documents to show those numbers as being what they required as well. Um. So what's going to happen next? They filed copyright claims for their group name in both Korean and English, their fandom name, and also the term Protect Omega X, which is which is the fans created hashtag, which I think is really nice. They really made a big thing about thanking the fans. 4X is their fandom name. Really made a big thing about how much they're grateful for them and whatnot, which is great. Um, and as of I think I want to say December 12th, maybe. Um, we will have a the court proceedings beginning to see exactly what the legal outcome of that is. I'm sure everyone is kind of just hoping that Spire will just fold and have to pay them compensation and whatnot. And hopefully, either they can manage themselves or a nice company can step up to take them under their wing.
This company sounds like such a cluster like of a mess that like I wouldn't be surprised because if they like falsified documents and things like that too, like I could only imagine how many other skeletons they have in the
Yeah,
closet. You know
and
that.
and
Like,
honestly, this kind of thing is not all uncommon, at least in terms of just really shady business practices coming from companies. Not to mention, obviously, the ones that we've seen cases of abuse and stuff in the past. They're also remember Taedong has been in companies before in which he suffered abuse, and he's also using it as an opportunity to expose them, and charges going to get pressed
good.
against them too. So that's also good. No one is safe. Um,
Like you said, it would be great if this was just like a catalyst to all the former abused idols that could come back and get at those companies as well too.
yeah, yeah. The one that always springs to mind for me is tracing. They kind of emerged a couple of years ago that they were just like awfully physically abused by their company. The people throwing chairs at them and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's kind of where it stands now. Obviously, once the court trial begins, we can always kind of do like a touch base and see what's developed from that.
To me, I'm like the craziest part of it all, and the thing that is so illegal and like should be criminally charged to her, like if proven true, like that the member had like COVID or something and she was forcing them in their sickness to perform. Like that is
Yeah,
to me like very much she should be criminally charged for that. Like that
yeah,
person could have been put into like a hospital in a really serious situation from doing that while being that unwell. Like
yeah,
you're just literally super sick forcing yourself to exhaustion. Like he could
yeah.
have been put in serious health conditions from
Yeah,
that. Like
for
that's
like for a respiratory condition,
yeah.
doing something of great physical exertion is just obviously not wise. And even if they're asymptomatic, right? Even if they feel completely fine,
Yeah.
putting them in a enclosed room in which they're breathing and like sweating into the air
Well,
is just like, well, how do we spread the disease more? Like,
they could have got someone else way more like
right,
sick that like it could have gotten someone else sick in a way worse situation or something, you know, like it's
exactly.
all bad. Like everything about that's really bad.
Yeah.
Like that to me that's one of the worst parts of the whole thing there. Like
But
the
I guess it would be it wouldn't be in Korea's remit to charge her for that. Maybe it would be because they have strict laws on what you can do overseas. But it probably would be up to like Chile or America if they wanted to press charges against her, which would be hilarious.
America charges
But
her.
like she has to go to she has to be extradited to
Well, I
face
imagine
different
I
charges.
imagine like you said, I imagine if whatever state they were in found that out or whatever, they'd be
yeah,
pretty pissed at the moment. You know what I mean? They would
yeah,
have
but
sent them back.
what I really hope doesn't happen is that they ban the group themselves from coming back because it's not their fault, you
No,
know.
it's not the members' fault. Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I don't know. I highly doubt the
Yeah.
United States government is keeping tabs on this story, so I don't
No,
think they will get
probably
banned.
not.
So I think it'll be okay.
But yeah, so that's the situation now.
Yeah, so at least there seems to be kind of like hopefully good news in the future related to this story. It seems like it's heading in a positive direction.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I really do hope that this can be a kind of landmark and that it will inspire others to speak up. But what I really do hope happens is that we don't get situations where a group does speak up against mistreatment and because they're not famous or successful, they get kind of swept under the rug or doesn't get appropriate coverage or feedback. But
You would
let's
hope
not
universally it
worry too
just
much.
makes CEOs act like CEOs.
But the problem is they are acting like CEOs.
Well,
They're
like actually do their job, not
they're
like
forgetting to act like human beings. Yeah.
yeah. Not act like it's their personal like fun group to have to hang around. Like it's that's not what your job is. Your job's not to call them at all times of the day to do whatever you want. That's not what running a company means. But I guess for her it did mean that. I don't know. It's wild.
That's why she did it. Why it got set up in the first place.
Well,
Who can be sure.
hopefully in the future all companies who do this stuff just get absolutely destroyed in the courts. That would be
Yeah.
great.
I mean, yeah, the like the best outcome would be that there is just a clear piece of legislation that any group can use to just smack an abusive CEO down with.
Well, I think it'd be great if like they really sued them for something substantial, like really got some type of like monetary big value out of it, where other companies that maybe thought about being that bad were like, okay, like maybe that's a really bad road to travel down.
Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about, so they'll keep like their group name and stay together as a group, you were saying?
Yeah.
Does that mean they're allowed to perform like the songs from being Omega X on this company? Because that's like an interesting thing. Where does copyright and things like that come
Right,
into...
but I think because the songs weren't written by that company, right? They're produced externally, so I imagine that shouldn't be a
The
problem.
songwriters themselves could just be like, yeah, whatever. Like,
Yeah, like you do it. And like their distributor is a different company, so and I'm sure there's no
that makes sense.
issue there. So
Like,
I'm no expert on like copyright law,
because copyright's an interesting thing. Like, even if that
Yeah.
company's terrible, if they had the ownership of the music, you wouldn't be able to perform it without their
Right.
go ahead.
But I imagine that all of that is going to be, if that is the case, it certainly will be included in what they're
In
going
their
to try and take from them in
lawsuits
that
and
case.
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know
And if
GOT7
not-
was able to do it because JYP was just like, yeah, like go ahead, you're GOT7, go do like
Yeah.
like he didn't seem to care that they just continued and did what they want to do. Like,
Yeah. Let's hope. Let's really hope. Perhaps though, maybe the members themselves wouldn't want to. Maybe there's an element of like, let's start a new chapter and leave the old songs behind.
yeah, it'd be really great to see if they make their own music on their own and have the same kind of success. Would be a really interesting thing for the idol industry as well, because then you might see more idols thinking, well, we don't have to depend completely on the structure of a corporation running our lives.
Like, take more stuff into our own hands. Yeah, that'd be cool. So yeah, I think while obviously it is a horrible situation, and I do really feel really bad for those boys, especially given how much they've already kind of suffered through the industry and its hardships already. I do hope that they can have that this they can be kind of heralded as a group that really made a difference in changing it, not just for themselves but for everyone. So yeah,
Yeah,
hashtag protect Omega X, I guess.
maybe there'll be some bill like called the Omega X K-pop bill or something. You never know, that like changes the
Yeah,
structure of everything.
yeah,
It's crazy to me that it was even possible in the first place. The whole
yeah,
situation, kind of, like, but that's wild. Was there kind
yeah.
of that seems like a good synopsis of it all? I don't know if there
Yeah,
was.
I think that's pretty much it.
It's kind of happening still, so
Yeah.
we'll
So
try to
yeah,
keep
when
updated
the
on
court
it.
case happens, we'll drop some more. Hopefully, have good news to share. We can talk about a stalker.
Yeah, on continuing on not depressing news. This one,
Yeah.
I don't know. This one, unlike the Omega X story, doesn't kind of have an ending to it that
No.
is bright or seems promising. This is just all bad in my opinion. Like, which we're talking about the Nayeon stalker, the Josh.
Yeah,
That is his
Josh.
name, right? Josh. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So so I think it was back in like 2020. I want to say that that this really started being a thing. I guess it'd been
Is this another
maybe
thing we can just blame on the
whatever.
pandemic? Or can we just we sweep this one under the
Honest,
rug too?
honestly, it might have been a factor. I think he said that. What did he say was the song that got him into Twice? I think he said it was Fancy. I don't remember exactly. He did an interview with Evangeline, who is a YouTuber. I think her username is like Cluep678 or something.
Yeah, I saw that because it was shared in our Discord. I saw some good chunk of that interview, which
Yeah.
was really crazy. He said like straight to her in the interview some very misogynistic things directly to her face in the
She
interview.
is a
Like,
she's a champion for going through that.
yeah.
I mean she got a lot of criticism. I just want to actually know her. I'm not like no, I've met her. She lives in the UK, lives in London, and she's been to like a K-pop event that I went to as well. um, but she's an interesting person. I do get what she was trying to do. There was a lot of criticism that she got from like why would you give him a platform and stuff. But like the shit he says gets shared around everywhere anyway. So I
I
think
I had always seen it before that interview on like
yeah,
Reddit
exactly.
posts and things like that, so it wasn't like a unknown thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think her kind of putting everything out there from him is like probably the best way to really completely reveal the depths of how fucking mentally ill he is.
Mm.
Because maybe it could have been easy to kind of brush it off as like, oh, he's just a guy in love or whatever. He's just a fan. Like, nah, like this dude is fucked in the head.
Yeah, to be
Like,
fair, in her interview, I feel like she confronted him a fair amount. It's not like she
oh
just
yeah,
let him
yeah,
speak like
yeah,
his
yeah. She
mind
challenged she
or
challenged him a
like
lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, So I mean, honestly, I just chat out eventually. I think he did great, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I want to say it was in 2020 that he was in Korea the first time, and I think the big one that happened was he got himself onto a flight that Twice were on, and he tried to like get through to where they were, and then the security stopped him.
Yeah, I think it was
Which
even
was
like
good.
just one of the staff of Twice, like just like got
Yeah,
him out of the way. Like was like, whoa,
yeah,
this guy's walking up with the letter, like on the.
yeah.
To me, that's so. What goes on in a person's brain where they think it's like acceptable to get on the plane of the person? Like that's full blown stalking right there, obviously. But then
Yeah.
go up to them with a letter on the plane. First of all, if anyone who's ever been on a plane, that's like already an uncomfortable experience. And then I have to deal with some crazy person following me around to give me a letter
Oh
on
God.
the
I
plane,
mean,
dude. Like,
oh, it must be so fucking terrifying if you're known as well. And on a plane, it's like, thing with a plane, there's a very finite amount of space.
where are you gonna go?
Like,
Yeah,
where you go? Exactly,
yeah,
where do
yeah,
you go?
exactly.
Like, there's if he corners you, which kind of is what happened. I mean, obviously, she has the great advantage of being in a large group, first of all, because you think like if you're gonna get to him, you've got to go through Junghyun first, like
Yeah.
you know. And of course, all of their staff and their bodyguards and whatnot. Like Twice don't skip when it comes to their protection. JYP's been very good about that. And JYP has kind of been given a lot of criticism for the way they've handled it, but really they've done all they can, and that's kind of the thing is that he hasn't outside of that. That was the first time he committed something that could be considered a crime,
Yeah.
but there were no like formal charges pressed,
It's not
from
like
what
a
I
strong
understand.
enough crime to totally screw the guy from being able
Yeah,
to still stalk. You know what I
because
mean?
he can say, "Oh, I just happened to be on this plane. I just was on a plane and I saw someone and I wanted to give them a letter. That's not a
The
crime."
fact is, in general, stalking laws are really garbage, like everywhere, and there's really
Yeah,
nothing strong you can do about it. And it's usually like police can't usually do anything until it's like way too late in these
exactly.
situations. So
Yeah.
it's really
Um,
unfortunate.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like people are criticizing JYP, but I think actually JYP deserves a lot of praise because this has been a situation that's been going for the best part of 3 years, and it hasn't gotten worse than that. Like that is the point it's been at. He has yet to make contact with her as much as he's tried. Um,
Yeah, I would like to
uh,
knock on wood as we say
well, yeah, yeah.
that.
But if they were doing a bad job, it would we would have had a much this story would already be a lot worse than it is, which I think is kind of the point. But yeah, so he after that there was a restraining order was filed, but I think they legally could only file a temporary order or something like that, or so, an order something along the lines of like if he comes to Korea again, he will immediately be. And people were saying that he'll immediately be arrested, but I don't think that was the case because like arrested for what? Um,
Yeah, I feel
it
like
would
you
just
have to
be he
have
would
a
be
very
watched immediately.
strong, like, kind of internationally charged crime to even be arrested when you land
Yeah.
in a
As,
country. Like,
as much as I'd like to imagine that JYP has like deep connections to Interpol, it's probably not not the case. Um, But he himself said that that the restraining order was lifted at the tail end of 2020, and that Nayeon herself went to the court to give evidence or testify about something. I don't know about all of that, and
I do
I don't
suppose,
know how much of his word I can take on it, but
because I did see some people saying like, oh, why would they lift the restraining order? Why would Nyan lift the restraining order? Those kind of things or something. And I do suppose
yeah,
in their thought, it could be like, you don't really want to. He's mentally unwell. You don't want to like give him ammunition to be crazier than he already is.
right,
To just kind of maybe if you just kind of leave him in this space of not antagonizing him, that he might just stay, kind of in that same loop without getting
yeah,
worse, you know.
which would make sense.
Yeah.
And throughout 2021, obviously because of COVID and stuff, he couldn't come to Korea. So he was left kind of lamenting his situation. And so we know a lot about this because he has a YouTube channel. He's quite public about. He's very open, which I think is kind of unusual
Yeah.
for stalkers. And the stalkers don't traditionally document everything that they're doing.
Yeah, they don't
Normally,
usually
they do
upload to
it
YouTube
secretly.
their
Yeah,
stalking. Like
exactly. So it's quite a unique perspective on on this kind of thing. Um, and it's definitely different to like how Sasaengs operate, for example. But anyway, the dude obviously has some ways that he finds stuff out because he landed in Korea and within days he had acquired Twice members' phone numbers and their addresses, which is like, how did you how did you do that?
from
That's
my
pretty
under
impressive.
like from everything I was reading, from my understanding, he does have money through his family somewhat.
Yeah,
So I imagine all of this is just him spending decent chunks of change to
yeah. That's obviously
somebody he found
yes.
out has like insider
Yeah, well,
information.
I mean, yeah, Sasaengs and stuff will know where they live, and that's how numbers get leaked and stuff. But
Yeah.
he's very easily able to find his way into those kinds of channels. But yeah, I think also the money must be drying out because it's not cheap to come here, and I mean he'd been here for months,
Yeah. You
and
would hope his
just
family would
and be like,
cut
yo,
the
what the fuck
tap.
are you doing?
You know.
Yeah, I do wonder what the extent to which his family know about it, and or like what their response and stuff to it is. But anyway, so he posted a video of him outside her apartment,
Mm.
doing the usual stuff of like, oh, I just want to talk to you, I just want to explain how I feel. And he seems convinced that if he can get a few minutes alone with her, that he'll convince her that he's the one or whatever.
Yeah, this man took like fever dream delusions to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
wild.
but then he does also say like, oh, if she herself tells me to leave her alone and never talk to her again, then I'm like at least I finally have that from her.
I doubt it.
But like, yeah,
Yeah.
right. So as of his last video was uploaded 3 weeks ago, and he said that he's exhausted. He wants an answer, and he basically said, "I'm running out of money." He said, "The longer I stay here, the more money I spend." And it was kind of with the implication of like, I can't keep doing this, which is obviously a good thing. But he said, like he said like, "Can you just give me a clear answer? Should I stop loving you and find another girl? Should I wait in Germany until you have time?" Which is hilarious. Or do you have time soon and want me to stay in Korea?
Bruh,
So
silence is the answer. That you've
yeah,
been given your answer by the silence. Sometimes someone not saying anything is the answer to your question. Like,
yeah. So really, hopefully, he will have to go back to Germany soon because he just doesn't have money to keep sustaining this.
on that previous thing,
That'll be that.
understand like Nayeon's point of view. If she answers this crazy person, then she has to answer every crazy person that is in love with Nayeon
Yeah,
as a weird
and
stalker, like
and maybe it
like,
sends a message to the stalking community as a whole that they
that you
can
can get your
get
idol
a
to
response
notice
from your
you.
idol.
Yeah.
My alt held my hand on the other day, so I'm I'm thriving. um, but I don't know. It's rough. And I feel bad for her a lot, and I really honestly like the way that she's not really shown any kind of public response to it, or that she hasn't I feel like with other members of Twice going on breaks for anxiety and stuff, I feel like no one would blink twice if she wanted to take some time off. um but she had her solo promotions and everything, just kind of did everything even with that shadow looming over her, which is a credit to her her willpower and her strength of character. But yeah, I don't know. It's the way the thing that was really alarming in that interview is what he was saying about how he was kind of like admiring stalkers who ended up killing their idols,
Yeah,
not
that's
in
when it gets
K-pop
really
but
creepy, in my
in pop
opinion.
music.
It's, yeah.
Yeah,
that's when there should be some sort of protecting law when someone who is stalking someone even openly talks about something like that. Like that's the point where you're like, all right, that's a serious threat
yeah,
to this person's life. So that person now should, if they're within like a 500 square foot radius, should not be allowed to be around them. Like,
yeah. And it's the unfortunate case is also that the Korean police don't really have the manpower to just to dedicate to following some dude from Germany around all
no,
the
of
time.
course not. No police force in the world really has the manpower to do
Yeah.
that. It's
Which of course is the next step means that JYP should hire their own private security firm with train their own militia.
this is a private military protecting
Yeah.
I would love to imagine that is created and they have an emblem of just Nayeon's face, like as an
Yeah.
armband or something.
It's JYP's face.
No, yeah.
She pulls up in an APC like
Oh god, that's Stray K. Someone from our Discord. For anyone who doesn't know, watching this, it's like her worst nightmare. A JYP private military with
you
his
just see
face
like 8 dudes in like tactical gear, like JYP logos
Oh
on
my
them,
god.
like clearing out the buildings and stuff. Yeah, maybe
JYP's a
that's the
pretty
next step.
fit dude. I like to imagine he could just show up and drop kick this dude.
That would be it. That would be an amazing outcome.
Yes.
JYP out of nowhere fly kicks him, or even better, she just beats the shit out of him herself. I feel like she could do some
I
damage.
feel like Nayeon could pull it off.
Yeah,
Could drop
but
kick somebody.
yeah. But on a serious note, obviously, I hope that I hope that he gets the help he needs. I think that's the other thing is that like, while it's kind of easy to say like, oh, you know, fuck this guy, he's crazy. I hope he rots in a jail cell forever. Like, the dude is clearly unwell and he needs help. And I hope that he can realize that and get the help that he needs.
Yeah, I need some serious therapy sessions, and I don't know if there's like he needs some training on like how men should interact with women. Like I
Yeah,
don't
and
know. Like,
the other thing, he's not a bad looking dude. I don't think. Like I think he if he was just a normal functioning member of society, he would do fine. Like it's not a case of him like being unlovable or whatever.
it's like
So yeah,
serious case of needing to touch grass. Like it's like very
yeah,
serious case of that. Like, but
yeah,
yeah, all jokes aside, I feel like it did like what you were talking about. What his recent kind of statements admiring the stalker of I know her name was Christina, I believe, or something.
mm,
I'm so bad with remembering names, but he admired a stalker who did stalk his idol and kill her at a fan meet.
Christina Grimmie.
Yeah, Christina Grimmie,
Yeah,
which was a big case that happened not crazy long time ago, but
yeah,
yeah.
2016, I think.
Uh, yeah, as soon as he kind of openly talked about that, to me, that's kind of the most terrifying development of it all. And you would hope now everyone takes it like really seriously once that. You would hope his family somehow hears of that and takes it very serious and just like puts the dude in some therapy and something. Yeah, something. So do something. I don't know. Something has to be done. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's when it gets really creepy to me. Like.
yeah. Um, yeah, I'm reminded. You know the famous Japanese animated movie Perfect Blue.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not quite the same, but there's elements of that of stalking and stuff that are involved in that. Just kind of reminds me of that. But great movie, and certainly if anyone hasn't seen it, do recommend it. Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it on that topic. That we haven't heard from him in just under a month. So perhaps by now his bank has run dry and he's had to head on back. I mean, actually, I know for a fact that the maximum you can stay in Korea on a visiting visa is 3 months, which presumably is the one he got. And I think the longest you can stay without a job is on a looking for work visa, which is 6 months. So unless he's had somehow was able to wrangle a way to stay here or he's staying here illegally, which
Yeah, I mean
would
the
of course give
the, the
the Koreans
problem, even if
a
he's not able to
response.
travel to, if somehow he got banned from traveling to Korea, it's not like Nayeon never goes to different countries. So,
That yeah,
in a
yeah,
sense, the problem needs to be solved at the source, which is him. So,
yeah. I do wonder if tries to do a European tour in the future.
you're just gonna
If
glop over Germany.
yeah, well the problem is all European countries are kind of close.
Yeah,
It's not hard to get from one to the other. Um, but anyway, let's not hope that the worst happens for that. I'll
yeah.
speculate that the worst might happen. I hope that instead that the best can happen. Perhaps, ideally, some of his family sit him down and go, "Josh, Herzu, you need help.
Yeah.
The bugs Hilfe." Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
If he happens to see this, stop it. Get some help.
yeah,
All right. That's kind of that's the gist of all of it. Just
yeah,
stop.
yeah.
Yeah, good. You had many topics, so
Yeah,
continue.
I guess we'll move swiftly on from from abuse and stalking to racism. All right.
This is
uh,
the trinity of just
of
the most
shit,
cheerful
yeah.
topics.
So this one has kind of had a more emphatic conclusion, at least. So this is the story about Crush, everyone's favorite Joy's boyfriend, who came out of the military. Although I felt like he was never in the military because he was just somehow always on these collaboration projects while he was enlisted. Clearly, he'd done a lot of work before he went in. Came out, and released a song with J-Hope of BTS, which was a banger, incidentally, Rush Hour, huge tune. Um, and Crush is if you're for anyone who maybe only follows kind of K-pop, doesn't follow the kind of R&B-ish side of stuff. Crush is like super popular, like really, really, really popular in Korea. A lot of idols always name Crush as one of their like big people they love a lot. Um, so he catapulted himself right back up to number one, obviously thanks in no small part to having a song with J Hope, but yeah. He's doing a concert and fan cam, or like not really a fan cam, just someone who's recording while they're there, emerges of him kind of high-fiving or touching the hands of fans in the front row standing up, and then he kind of pulls away from the people recording who are black. And then he seems like he goes back to touching people's hands afterwards. Oh, and it looked really bad. It looked really, really bad. And what he came out and said about it was like, hey, it's I was not giving everyone high fives because I could see that there were safety issues, safety concerns. I wanted to make sure that no one was getting hurt in the front or whatever. People were getting pushed, so I didn't want to lean in and make it worse and that kind of thing. Which, okay, fine. That's a perfectly valid thing. You shouldn't have been doing it to anyone if that was your your excuse, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't potentially make a bad situation for yourself by giving high fives to some people, because then everyone's going to think maybe he'll high five me, and then they're going to push for it, right? Like it doesn't make sense what he said. So because the people were black and it looked like he was high fiving almost everyone who wasn't black, people were like, he's a racist. That's the explanation. Which obviously is a case of correlation more than it is causation, but you can see why that conclusion was reached.
Yeah, I did see the video, and like, it's just so. It looks bad, like you're saying. It just looks so bad because he is like high fiving. They're there. He kind of does this, and then he high fives again. It's just, but I don't know. It looks bad, but it's not like I can't say it's like. I can't say he is racist or anything. You know what I mean? Like I can't just like come to that conclusion. Like
yeah. Then people did also dig up then a clip from when he was on King of Masked Singer back in 2016, in which his mask was basically just a black stereotype. It was like a really it was like black skin with like over the top curly hair and like big lips. It looked like blackface in the most over the top way. And like fucking what? But the thing is, he did not choose the mask. Like, you don't choose your mask.
There's a designer guy or someone who does all the masks for Mad Singer, right?
Yeah,
I'd be more checking to know what he was up to, thinking doing that.
I mean, Jesus Christ, yeah. But and then people could say like, why didn't he say no? I won't go out like this or whatever. But like, a lot of the time, it just doesn't occur to people. But anyway, it then emerged that the two girls who recorded that video to begin with had not only then been seen from a different angle from someone else filming, that he went back and actually did reach out to them, but that they had repeatedly attempted to drag a bunch of different artists under the mud for various things. I think they tried to do the same to AT, they tried to do the same to Jessie. I think there was a couple others that they went to concerts to and tried to do the same kind of thing. And it became apparent that they were, in fact, just looking for free clout on
for drama. Like,
yeah. And there were multiple fan cams kind of emerged of Crush saying exactly what he said in his statement that he had said, that he was saying like, hey guys, be careful, and then like not going to everyone, clearly not going to people who are of every complexion and going to people who were black or whatever. And so the scandal kind of died down quite quickly.
In a sense, it's a good ending because it proves Crush's innocence, but it's also a bad ending because it's like, really? You know, like...
Then all of this happened in such a way. And Crush has just announced the US tour, so I do kind of wonder if the, the after effects of that will still be felt. Um, but yeah, I guess my kind of my takeaway on it is I mean, I guess kind of feels ridiculous to have to say this, but don't leap to conclusions. You know, wait until you have every available piece of evidence that you can. Because it did look really bad. Like, admittedly, when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, geez, what are you doing?
Yeah, the
Like, you're an
angle of
idiot."
it makes it look so much worse because it's kind of
Yeah,
from
of course.
behind and you see him do
And it's like
this
a
and
and of like a vertical camera shot where you don't see it. Like, it's only a
yeah.
very small segment of the crowd. Like, yeah. And then the other thing, of course, is that the way that Twitter operates or social media operates is that once that a narrative takes hold, especially if it's a so and so is racist hold narrative, if you stand up and go, actually, no, he's not, then that makes you a racist or a racist supporter, and obviously that's not what you want to be. And it kind of makes it very difficult to try and challenge stuff and try and present alternative perspectives and whatnot. But that, unfortunately, is not going to change anytime soon. It's kind of the way that online society functions at the moment. Um, yeah, I do hope that Crush is not racist, and I hope that if he is safety conscious about his concerts, that he doesn't just start high fiving random people and not others, because that's not going to help his not going to help with
Yeah,
safety.
the first thing I was gonna give him is kind of like a, because I've been to concerts where like the artist goes up and if you're up front they high five, but they don't high five everyone. You know, like it
Yeah,
happens all the time.
yeah, yeah.
It just looked so bad because of the particular moment he stopped high fiving to start high fiving again. But it's not
It
like
seemed
I've
very
never.
arbitrary.
It's not like
Yeah,
I've never seen that situation
yeah,
just without any racial context tied to it.
yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
so at first I was just like, I've seen singers do this all the time, you know, blah blah, stop and do it kind of again, high fiving. But yeah, it looked really bad. But like saying, there's different angles of it, obviously, where he did go back and interact with them. Hopefully that starts trending just as much as
It's kind of already done now. It's like a
yeah.
closed case. I think some people still are gonna hold it against him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's more or less that. And I guess it kind of segues us nicely into another topic, which is just concert safety, shall we say? Shall we put it this way? I think this has kind of been a bit of a bigger topic recently, because of after what happened in Itaewon on Halloween, where we saw firsthand what can happen when too many people are closed together and not people aren't given enough space.
See, this is why mosh pits need to happen at every concert. It frees up the space, you know, we all knock each other down a little bit, you pick each other back up, you know, you get a little
Yeah,
bit of movement flowing in the legs.
yeah. No one's ever been hurt in a mosh pit ever.
No, dude. I've been with a broken toe. I have been in a mosh pit at Slayer in a wheelchair with a broken toe and safe the whole time. And I got pushed around
but
by like 20 different people.
actually, I mean, yeah, mosh pits for at least most metal groups and stuff, they do tend to be extremely safety
But
conscious. If
sometimes,
anyone's hurt, they'll stop it and help. And more
sometimes.
like punk shows
Oh, punk
gets a
shows are
bit
definitely the most
gets
dangerous
a
ones.
bit
I've had
messy.
two
Yeah,
different friends get broken noses and everything in a punk show. Okay, yes, do
yeah,
not. You're never safe at a punk show.
yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. I had a friend who got stabbed. someone just
Oh, that's much
someone
worse.
just
Yes.
had a knife and just put it out, drew it out in a mosh pit and started just going to town on people.
Wonderful.
Rock
Brought
and
us
roll.
back to
Anyway,
the safety
so
topics.
yeah, so I don't want to talk about let's say one stuff too much because it's still kind of a rough topic over
Yeah.
here, and it's not exactly related to K-pop or whatever. So we can just kind of move on. But what happened on like a weekend afterwards was NTT 127 were having a concert in Indonesia, and they were handing out like little. They were almost like little tennis balls, like little balls that they had signed, right? And they were just kind of throwing them into the crowd. You can imagine what the result of that is. People surging around trying to get their hands on the things and stuff like that. Rushing up to the front, like, give me one, give me one, give me one, give me one. And 30 people were knocked unconscious and went into various stages of cardiac arrest, but fortunately no one died. Everyone was saved, as it were. But it could have been a lot worse, like a lot worse. And it would not have been that in very recent memory. I think it was either earlier this year or last year. There was a crash at a football stadium in Indonesia in which like some 100 people something were killed, maybe even more than that. Um, so yeah, the fact that this was happening so soon after such a prominent uh, tragedy in Korean culture is ludicrous. First of all, I don't know how, even though obviously Indonesian fans weren't involved in that, but they would have known about it, and the fact that there wasn't that thought in the back of their minds is crazy to me. The members themselves, you can tell, are freaking out about it because they can see what was very much close to happening. Fortunately, there were good barriers and railings and stuff like that, which basically did their job. But the event organizer ended up coming out the next day in tears, got on her knees, and begged the crowd to be respectful and helpful and stuff. Unfortunately, the second day kind of went a bit better. The first day they had to cancel the rest of the show. They had to stop, I think, 5 or 7 songs before the end. And they couldn't come back out. I just, I mean, I get it. You're excited. You know, you're seeing your idols or whatever, and especially if you're in a place like Indonesia, you don't get that many concerts and stuff. You know, but Christ, like just think about it, just think about what's happening. Be considerate and be aware of what to you is harmlessly pushing forward to get a better view, what that might be doing to the guys who are at the
Yeah,
front,
concert doesn't mean like personal boundaries don't exist anymore with the people around you. Like, it doesn't mean you can just start bulldozing into people. Like, there still
Yeah.
is a boundary that you have to respect around the people around you. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a universal problem at concerts. It seems like, so
Yeah,
it's like everybody
obviously,
needs training on how to be in a crowd together. It's fucking wild. Like, it's
yeah.
kind of nuts.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty much what there is to say about that. We kind of had a few concerts going a bit askew. We had the camp LA. There's promised this like huge K-pop festival at the Rose Bowl, right? And then a huge bunch of the artists had visa issues, couldn't go. Um, so like it was like I mean the initial lineup looked incredible, right? And then like
Hmm.
from who was there, it was like, but
I was gonna go initially because you shared it to me, and I was like, Taeyeon,
Taeyeon's
Super
there, yeah,
Junior,
yeah,
aespa, they're all in the same show. Like, I was like, what? And then
yeah.
I could not tell you how glad I am I did not buy. Although I would have very much still liked to have seen Super Junior, but it
Well,
was a hot
I think
mess.
I think Super Junior really kind of saved that event, from what I can tell. They not only did they, from what I gather, they paid their own tickets to go there. So initially, SM, when they had issues with Esper, Taeyeon, and Kai, all of them were supposed to go, right? All of them had visa problems, and SM just pulled out completely and was like, right, fuck it, we're not sending them. But Suju were like, hey, we got our visas because they managed themselves under they are under label SJ, which is like a subsidiary of SM, but managed by themselves. Um, they have their own channels with which they do that kind of stuff, and they were able to secure theirs no problem, which is kind of funny if you think about it. But they were like, oh shit, none of the SM crew are going, but maybe let's go anyway, and they paid their own tickets and went there. Um, and they performed like way longer to kind of compensate for it, and which is off the back of them doing a world tour, incidentally. And bear in mind, these guys pushing 40, so them doing long sets in different countries around the world is a bit harder for them than it is for some others. Like Yesung was shown like kind of hunched over, like catching his breath a few times. Like they were giving it all. They for there was supposed to be like a meet and greet that the VIP ticket holders had,
I
which
saw
was
that video.
basically like them just walking past where they were like pressed up against the wall like 20 meters away. They could just wave, but Suju like no. They like went up and like greeted everyone and shook their hands, high fived them and stuff. Like they really went above and beyond. And I think from what I can tell, they put on a great show as well. And I think
It's definitely one
going,
of those things you can feel like proud if you're like an elf,
mm,
like where you're just like that's our group, like
yeah,
that's
and especially because Suju are notoriously hated by a lot of international K-pop fans for little reason other than it's trendy to do so. A lot of the reasons that people give are either baseless or like ancient history and stuff that's long been apologized for. Um, Suju are very aware of this. That's the other thing. Suju know that they're not that popular in America. That's why they don't go there very much. Like the tour they're doing, they're going to Taiwan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines. No, they're not going to America. Um, and to the point that it's actually kind of sad as well. Like, especially because like Shindong is a member, for example, he gets a lot of hate. And that there's a clip of someone. I think they want to give some. They're like giving a rose. Uh, and he is standing there at the front, and Donghae is just behind him. Donghae's really popular. And he was like, when he saw it, he's like, "Oh, it's for Donghae," and they were like, "No, no, it's for you," and he couldn't believe it was for him. And it was like, damn, dude, like, come on, like,
that's so
this stuff's the state that
sad,
the
dude.
dude's in, like, yeah. But
He's a
anyway,
variety genius. That's the thing. Like if
yeah,
you've
he's great.
seen like the him, I mean they all are. Him, Lee Took, and Heechul are all just like TV
And yeah,
geniuses. It seems like personality wise.
yeah, they're great. That's part of the reason they've enjoyed such longevity, right? They're very very good at what they do. And yeah, they really can kind of pull through, and I think made the event worth it for a lot of people who went. So yeah, shouts out to them. And but what again, another major kind of event attempt in the West for a K-pop. We've had a couple like K-pop festivals that they've been trying to host, and each one of them in Europe and America, and they've all kind of been a bit of a shit show. So clearly, event organizers have a lot to learn. Um, Hopefully, they'll get better.
You'd hope so.
The other thing I think we should probably talk about is Raven from One Us, and maybe perhaps a couple. We can kind of a couple members who've left groups. Maybe just do all of them at once.
I've
So
totally not accidentally been calling that person Raven for like.
it looks like Raven. I get it. Yeah. So someone came out and said that Raven was being a bit of a naughty boy, um, to put it mildly, in that he was violating COVID rules and his curfew and stuff to basically go and get it on, which I know full well is something that a lot of idols do, both boy group and girl group members. It's not exactly like a secret that they have little trysts here and there, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
But this one was a little bit, it kind of emerged that this was a bit more of a problem than just him going off and having a relationship with someone. Um, so it emerged, first of all, that it wasn't just him and one girl, but him and multiple girls. Fans that he met through fan signs or whatever, and this kind of shit happens a lot.
I mean,
It's not again like yeah,
it would have been typical of like, I guess. I guess it does because he's an idol, but it'd be typical of like American rock stars
it's a
or British
very
rock stars to just have many romantic relationships at the same time or whatever, like. But I suppose it is very different if you are an idol, I guess.
yes. So the official scandal that led to him leaving the group was, from RBW's perspective, an infidelity that he was accused of committing, basically saying that he was cheating on someone, or that he had a relationship and he was cheating with someone else. And that they said that he would be leaving the group, he'd be withdrawing, but they were going to pursue legal action, because they said, fake edits made and fake messages and malicious rumors and stuff that were fake, in order to defame him. So they said they're going to pursue it, and that's the last we've heard. We haven't heard any more from that. But the stuff that I presume RBW is saying that is fake is people basically saying stuff like, "Oh, he I don't want to go so far as to call him a rapist, but was very pushy, shall we say. And there's like recordings of him basically being very unpleasant about the women that he is supposedly seeing. Messages of basically like this girl who would buy him like $1,000 diamond bracelet, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. Like just being very callous, just basically being a giant fuckboy, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And again, because RBW is challenging the authenticity of some of this stuff, I don't want to go ahead and just say, yeah, he's a rapist or he's whatever, because I don't know what's true and what isn't. But there is certainly stuff that it seems very difficult. I can't see how some of it would have been fake. Like there's a clip of him like pacing around outside the apartment of one of these girls. And it's, they have like the camera, and it's clearly him, and I'm like, I don't think the way that the video looks, it doesn't look fake to me.
So some of the stuff they're saying like is fake looks highly real. Like,
but the thing, I don't know exactly what they've said is fake either. They've just said there have been fake stuff.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. It sounds a lot like kind of like the
that,
Lucas situation a little bit, just
Yeah.
like handled
It's
a lot
very-
different by the
Yeah,
company, whereas SM's like,
very-
all right,
it's very-
Lucas disappeared for a while or whatever.
Yeah,
You know, like
it's very similar to that. So I don't know. Again, I don't know what's real, what isn't. So until I know more, until more details emerge, I'm not going to try and make any sweeping statements about it.
yeah, I guess
so-
in the context of his, the reason it's bad is because there's information out there that makes it look worse than just having consensual relationships with a lot of different girls or whatever. It's not like yeah, because if maybe this is an opinion now that doesn't hold well, but I feel like if he's just having consensual relationship with a bunch of different girls, that's just like typical of like a rock star lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't really see why that would end someone's career.
Yeah, well, the one thing that certainly was a factor here was that it was in violation of COVID law.
Yeah, I understand. If there's bad things like that, and then also obviously worse things have been said, I can understand why that's bad.
To the point that I think it was even when he himself had COVID and he was off, he was like going around.
Yeah, that's bad.
getting
that doesn't look good.
Yeah. So either way, yeah. When more emerges from this, obviously we can follow up on it. But as it is, he has withdrawn from the group.
I do understand they are idols, so I guess we can't hold them to like the similar standard of like Motley Crue or something, you know. Like,
you imagine,
yeah, because if anyone lived like Tommy Lee has over like the last 30 years,
Motley Crue are like the pinnacle of of utter clownery.
Of just debauchery at its worst. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. If I was a rock star, I would be just mountains of cocaine and girls all the time, but
I think that doesn't work in the idol industry.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? It's like the idea that they have to strive for perfection. Even just the idea of him having a single consensual relationship would have been a scandal, if not one that he would have had to withdraw over. But for it to be like that, I think the other thing was that one of the girls was, or maybe the main girl was Japanese. And he was kind of making her come to Korea just so he could see her whenever he wanted, and like then casting her aside and stuff, and just kind of, being a bit shit. The other kind of sort of, honest are like pretty famous, but not super famous, right? Like they have a solid international fandom, they're not huge, and a group of a similar kind of stature as Victor. And one of their members has also left. Ho-chan was caught in basically, this is very open and shut. He was caught drunk driving, prosecuted, confirmed, and withdrew the group. That's it. Not much more to be said about that. He's an idiot. He did something really stupid, and he's paid the price.
I mean, very understandable that drunk driving would end a lot of careers. So especially a public one.
It has in the past as well. Like Kangin from Super Junior left after a drink driving scandal. It's happened before. It probably will happen again.
I just want to say, public transportation is highly accessible in South Korea. Yes, like I just want to say,
Yeah,
why are you driving drunk in South Korea? I don't
and
understand.
I
Like,
think the reason is, from what I can tell, what I gather anyway, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, the subway does shut after midnight, so if you're out drunk and your bar closes at 2, you can't get the train. But if you're out and you get a bus or the subway, or you're seen waiting for a taxi, and someone sees you and you're like drunk as hell, like that itself is bad press, and they want
not
to
as bad
avoid
as
that.
drunk driving.
Well, exactly. But what I think is that, oh, well, what's almost certain is that a lot of them are driving drunk, and he just happened to get caught. I think it's very unlikely that this was the first time he'd ever driven drunk, you know, and I highly doubt that others aren't doing it. They're just not getting caught, and that's why we don't hear about it. Just because it means that, and also I think the other thing is it helps them to avoid like being tracked, because I think if they're paying for something on a card, like if they pay for a track taxi, the company will see what they did and be like, "Hey, what were you doing at 2 in the morning?" But if he just gets in his car and drives, they don't track it. So I think that's also a factor, maybe. But anyway, whatever the reason, he's an idiot.
All the
But
bad
yeah,
effects to all those other reasons are still better than drunk driving. So it's
yeah,
like, and to me, like, the money you spend on a taxi is always worth it, because it's more than the money you're going to spend in court for driving drunk, or worse, causing a horrible situation. So like,
yeah.
just don't do it
Yeah,
anymore for any
just
reason.
don't.
Just it's
Yeah.
very, and to be honest, like, if you're within walking distance, just fucking walk. Use your Chevrolet legs to get where you're going. All right, I don't like.
Yeah. And don't drive somewhere in the first place if you're not sure of how to drive back.
Yeah,
Um, if you're an idol and you're like, shit, I've got like a really busy couple
you
like
you
schedules, I don't know when I'm gonna
can
have
leave the
time.
club before it closes. That is
That
also a
too.
possibility.
That too.
That is a thing that can actually happen. It's, you
Yeah.
don't have to close the place down.
There's a lot of
It's,
options you can
yeah.
explore. Um, yeah, I think there's not much else to say about that one. And then the other kind of prominent levers, we had Mashiho and Bang Yadam leaving Treasure, which I mentioned when we reacted to Treasure's not most recent song, but the one that they released before this one, where I mentioned that they were 2 members down. At the time, they were both on hiatus, but now, kind of to surprise of at least a good few people, it was announced simultaneously that both of their contracts were being terminated and they would no longer be
That's
involved.
really interesting because their group is doing well. Like,
And but Bang Yadam is, or was, far and away the most popular member. He was a huge part of the reason that people were interested, especially in Korea. I'm probably gonna get this wrong. I'm fairly sure that on the show that made them, Treasure Box, he was like the most popular guy. Maybe he was like the first place or whatever. I don't know. I don't watch it. Um, but anyway, so this dude has been. People say that Bang Dam was to YG what G Hyo was to JYP. Like he'd been there for 10 years or something training, and this was his final debut and a chance to debut, and then he ended up leaving 2 years into their career. He's also a producer, like he was writing and producing for them. He's also probably one of their best vocalists and whatnot. So for him in particular to leave, it's like, wow, that's a really big deal. The reason given was that he wanted to pursue his career more in the focus of music production rather than being a performer,
hmm.
which is fair enough. You know, if that's what he wants to do, then fine. I'm not a Tierney. I don't really care. Like he can do what he wants, in my opinion. But I understand obviously that Treasure fans are upset that he's gone. Mashiho I know a lot less about. I just know that the reason that they gave for him was that it was health concerns, which again, if that's how it was, that's unfortunate. But
It's an interesting thing. So if his reasoning for like music production side of things, I mean, to me, you already have a platform where you're really popular. You can create in that platform make yourself a much bigger name for the future of this job that you want to do.
Yeah,
But understandable if you think the best route is to just go straight into only that side of it. But yeah,
yeah,
to me, you could make a much bigger name for yourself doing that in the group
yeah.
that you're in. But I
The
yeah.
way YG phrased it was that he said it was like it's for his personal development, something
Mm.
like that. So I don't know obviously the details, and YG being YG
YG's
won't
kind of
be forthcoming.
lost. I mean,
But
I know BI's circumstances were very different, but that's two very prominent kind of idols that are very creative in the group's own process that they've lost.
yeah,
Which I would say for Icon, it was a huge detriment to lose BI
absolutely, yeah.
for his creativity and two of the like biggest hits they ever had, right?
hmm
And it's like you don't
BI
recover
incidentally
from that
just
very easily. Like,
he just had a comeback. Go check it out. Shout out to BI. Um, yeah, I guess the kinds of guys who YG were looking at to sort of be like in the sort of G Dragon vein, right? These dudes who can be very prominent members of their groups in producing and writing for them and stuff that they ended up losing. Um, I mean, BI became Icon happened because Winner happened. I don't know if you know about that. um,
no, Icon
so
happened because Winter happened.
yeah, so Winner were formed on a show called Win, Who Is Next, right? And on it, there were obviously a bunch of different YG trainees and stuff. And BI was one of them, and he really impressed, but he didn't make the cut into Winner. But everyone was like, "Yo, this dude's fucking sick! Like, he absolutely needs to debut." So they ended up kind of doing another show right away called Mix and Match, I think it was called, which ended up leading to Icon like the year after, which is like it's crazy to think YG would debut two groups a year apart, given how they usually operate, right? And it was just because of the impression that BI made on the show that formed Winner that he ended up debuting in the first place.
Treasure's a big group and like successful. It'll be really interesting to see if kind of. I feel like for Icon, it was a really bad career trajectory
I mean,
losing
they've
BI.
not bounced back from
Yeah,
that height,
and it will be
right? Yeah,
interesting to see if what Treasure bounces back from losing such an important member too. Like
yeah, yeah,
losing a creative member, like someone who's part of the creative process, is like the worst thing that can happen for any group when they're considered a part of your sound. You know, it's
yeah. Um,
be interesting to see. I feel like they're a
yeah,
really big kind of like I really enjoyed that most recent comeback too. So it'll be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It was good. Um, so yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, I hope they'll do it. I'm sure they'll do fine in terms of the popularity and stuff. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Yadam does next. um, I guess the other thing that we should mention as a kind of send off is the Bandit, who unfortunately disbanded, um, which is a goddamn travesty
Yeah,
because
Venom was fucking dope, dude. What is wrong
yeah,
with all of you, dude?
yeah. Um,
Venom. I
I
love
mean,
Venom.
they had banger after banger, and that was their first time in like 2 years or something as well. It was crazy. And they really gave their all every time they performed. I saw an interview in which they said that the company, and bear in mind this is M&H, which is Changha's company. It's not like they don't have a, a strong artist or a fan base somewhere a part attached to them. Um, they they said like, yeah, our company promised us more comebacks after Venom or something like that, and then bang, disbanded. Um, Sungun and Yeon are, although not officially, they are on the Girls Reverse show, the like VR show that's coming up. So I hope that that means that they're very much still going to remain in the industry and they might have a chance to re-debut somewhere. I hope the same is true for the other girls as well. I actually talked to this is my nature connection for the day. I talked to Loha about it because her and Sungun are like best friends. They used to live together, so they're very familiar with each other. And the day that that news broke, I happened to have a video call with Nature. I talked to Laha about it, and she said that she was like, I mean, she says that she's fine, but I can tell obviously she's not fine. And she's her exact words were, I think she's like a very good girl, a very hot girl. I
Yeah.
like, and I was like, yeah, she should be a singer. So we agreed, yeah, she should be. All of them should be. So I really hope that those of them who want to continue trying to pursue this dream, have the opportunity to do so. And if others
uh,
choose to go elsewhere, then best of luck to them.
was surprised to see the news. I mean, everything we had checked out from them was awesome. So it only seemed like they were getting better too. Like Venom legitimately was just like great.
Venom's really
Like
good.
yeah, all around really great. But it does seem like this is probably a topic we can do like almost a whole episode on. But it does seem like in the fourth gen girl groups, it's really hard to survive. Like it seems like unless you are
Yeah.
like Stacy popularity, which is just right outside of maybe being like Ive and
Hmm.
from like New Jeans and stuff like that, where that's like just insane amounts of popularity. Unless you're
Right.
at that kind of like Stacy category, it seems like you almost can't
Well,
survive the fourth
there's
gen.
orders of magnitude to it, right?
Like
And there's a difference between being like the 100,000 plus seller, or like the 10,000 plus seller, or the 1,000 plus
yeah,
sellers, right? But and it's certainly true that a lot of Nugus really do struggle, and they don't make it. I mean, the industry has always been that way, but it is especially kind of cutthroat. I think it doesn't have to be as high as the Stacey level of popularity. I think probably the best example right now of a group that's certainly risen from that very small sales and not popular level to doing pretty well for themselves is Wua. Because like Wua just had a comeback. They've sold 30,000 on this thing, so they're doing well now. I
yeah.
think
I guess I
once you're
just
at that
mean it
level, you're
doesn't
doing
seem like you
okay.
can be comfortable
No, it's always going to be
unless you
something
are
looming over
in that
you.
kind of like Stacy zone or something where you're
Yeah,
getting a
yeah.
mega amount of sales, because otherwise then you have to worry the next comeback could be like, if the next comeback's not a banger, you have to worry a little bit about your
Well,
group. It
yeah,
seems
and
like
I
in
mean,
Fortune, like
Stacey's. We mentioned this before, but Stacey's company said like even though their debut was such a hit and their first couple songs were such hits and they were selling hundreds, thousands, and streaming millions, it would be they were like, yeah, we have to do this for like 2.5 years before we break even. Like
yeah,
there's so much money goes into this that obviously there was a bit more value and stuff behind their debut and stuff that as part of the reason why they were successful, right? But a lot of money goes into producing these groups that if they can't sustain it, then they have to cut them loose, which is a real shame. And I get it from a business point in some ways, but you have to imagine that M&H was could be sustained through Changha and enough to also kind of pay some of the losses for Bandit and keep seeing that there was growth and that they could grow, do more. But it's a dog eat dog world out there. Unfortunately, that's not a stereotype
I
about Korean people.
I would say like for groups like Wua and Weekly and stuff like that, like some of those groups that we talk about, like that at least they have kind of that one song that's like popular enough that it carries some momentum. It
Hmm.
feels like I feel like with groups like Bandit, Pink Fantasy, and another name that's blanking on me for some reason, even though I check them out so much. Craxy, right? Crazy, like Craxy.
Hmm.
For some of those groups, it seems like if they don't have like one song that gets enough popularity to carry any momentum for them, then it's really hard for their careers to continue in the fourth gen. It seems like it's a big boundary. You need at least one that is like really propelling some type of popularity to your group. Billy's in an interesting place, I would say, because they are
Yeah.
popular, but maybe not like insanely so. I guess I don't know. It's
Yeah.
hard to say. Like
The,
Suki is very big, obviously, in variety and stuff like that. But
yeah, they're actually you can kind of put them kind of between in the midpoint between where like Wua is at and where like Stacy is at. I think they sold like 70,000 copies. And
that's
obviously,
very
I'm using album sales as a kind of exist sole benchmark of how popular or successful a group is.
well.
Obviously, it
Album
doesn't
sales
quite
do
work that
help.
way, but it's a good way of judging. Yeah,
It does help if you are selling 70,000 copies to keep your groups running. You know, like that
yeah,
they do need that money to for future projects. Yeah, it's like
yeah. And it's obviously the disbanding is one thing. and with all these people leaving, I think people were kind of raising the point that it's incredibly rare for a group to re-sign with all members. Like
Yeah.
we just had Monster X re-sign, uh, except for IM, who decided that he's going to part ways with Starship, but he will remain part of the group. And just like Wien is with Mamamoo, just going to go and do his own thing somewhere else, but still be a part of the group and do stuff. And again, he's a major part of Monster X's production side of things and writing for them and stuff. So I hope that it won't be too detrimental in that regard. He's now signed for Sony Music, which I think is an interesting choice because I haven't thought of Sony Music as having a K-pop division or whatever I am going to be doing with them. It's kind of unclear.
Maybe that's them kind of making the moves in that direction.
Maybe not a bad artist to get under your belt.
Sony is massive worldwide, so they have the potential to basically do anything they want.
Yeah, but people are saying that I think it's only like even across boys and girls alike, it's like only 17 twice and SF9, I think, are the only groups who are still active. Oh, and Red Velvet are the only groups who are still active. Dreamcatcher now, well, yeah. This is why this came up because Dreamcatcher will re-signed and it makes them now only the fifth group.
Thank God, Red Velvet, dude. I would cry in a corner all day.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Red Velvet, just keep it going. Let's do another 20. Let's add 20 years on there. All
right? Be following Super Junior's footsteps. Start your own sub label, label RV. Like,
don't completely follow in Super Junior's footsteps because they did lose a lot of members along the way. But they
had more to lose.
Yes, they did have a lot more members to lose along the way. But yeah. Yeri, just keep calling out people online. It's okay. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think Red Velvet have certainly all found their own individual identities, right?
Yeah, Joy seems to be like becoming a big actress, and Irene was always kind of in like commercials. I don't quite know what Irene does now.
I think she. Yeah, I know Yeri's been in talks to join a.
Wendy has like radio shows going on. She's got a popular radio show and stuff. Like, just keep doing.
Irene has done some acting, but yeah. But yeah, just keep doing. Yeah, as long as they keep doing whatever every now and then.
This next comeback is. I'm look like I'm gonna die before the year's over. Yeah, I don't. Wendy, I didn't know was gonna. Do that to me on Instagram.
Where did that come from? Yeah.
I'm always afraid of what Joy and Irene and Solgi and all of them are gonna do when I open the Red Velvet Instagram, but I didn't know Wendy was gonna attack me like that. That was just.
So I guess that's some positive news, right? That we have Dreamcatcher re-signing. We've got Red Velvet come back on corner. I saw that JYP just trademarked twice 12 mini albums, so that's going to be coming soon.
Dude, hold on. They trademarked. This is our ending here. They trademarked the Misamo, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. When is that happening? That has been what I've been asking for years now. Yeah. When are we getting this subunit? I need this to happen soon.
One other piece of news I wanted to cover is that Yoonha, my queen, Mommy Yoonha, she I'm
gonna edit that.
She had one of her songs, Event Horizon, which came out at the tail end of last year, start going viral in Korea a few months ago because of vague scientific community related reasons, but also because she was doing a lot of like festivals at universities and whatnot. I saw her at the Olympic Peace Park and she was fucking awesome, and it's made me go from kind of casual fan of hers to like I'm like, oh my god, she's actually amazing and I love her. And her song was started just ascending the charts, and because of all the releases from various like big groups and stuff, it was looking like she's not gonna like have a full like Brave Girls moment or whatever. But nah, she did. She got a perfect all kill on, what was it, a couple of days ago. She had got a couple of them. It's kind of been up and down. Hasn't been like sitting at the top for 5 days or whatever, but she's been topping a lot of charts. She's kind of battling with Idol on YouTube to decide if she got the perfect all kill or just the real time all kill. and yeah, she did it, and she's delighted about it. But she's she's very she's not really an idol. She's more of a singer, right?
Yeah.
And she well, just has a Twitter and she will tweet and post stuff on Instagram, does stuff. She's very like free, just does whatever. And she just posts really funny like her takes on it. She's just like basically like, hey, yo, what the fuck is happening? uh, but so amazing for her. It's a great song as well, Event Horizon. I'm excited to see some of her other songs charting as well, especially Orc Cloud, which is another fantastic song of hers.
This does seem to happen a lot, like older recently, I guess you'd say, like older
Yeah,
tracks all of a sudden like just coming back into like fruition again, like
yeah, I think the Brave Girls thing kind of set off a little bit of maybe a little mini kind of trend. 'Cause we sort of saw it with Laboom with Journey to Atlantis, who incidentally are not disbanded. There were rumors that they were disbanding, and they were like, "No, we're just going to move company again."
I just
They
want to throw this
whatever
out there.
happened with that.
Wiggle wiggle, hello Venus, let's make it happen. All right, let's bring it back.
The wiggle wiggle, perfect
Bring it
wiggle.
back. Let's bring it back, baby.
But
I
yeah,
want
but
to.
shouts out to you, huh? If you haven't had that song, if you haven't had that album, End Theory, please, you all need to listen to it. It's amazing.
It
Um,
is very good. You did, even though I had seen it before when you had brought it up, the song was trending again. You showed it to me again, and it is a great song.
yeah, it's not my favorite on the album, but it is a good one.
The
Um,
video is pretty wild too. Like the end has like almost like an interstellar thing going on. Like,
it's an Event Horizon, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. It's good.
that whole album is very astronomical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, and I guess that's pretty much it. The other thing to come up is that next week we of course have Mama 2022 looking
Mm.
to be hopefully not as much of a bitter disappointment as the last couple of Mamas.
Let's just get some
I
good
will
performances.
say,
I don't care who wins. I want some
okay.
great performances.
So obviously, for another thing coming up around the corner is the Kara comeback, which is fucking awesome. Like, how great is it that this year we've been able to say that we had a Big Bang comeback, a Girls' Generation comeback, and a Kara comeback.
The
Like,
Nuna comebacks, dude. I love it.
yeah, I mean they're looking good. Like, they're looking good, good. But they'll be performing at Mama, which is awesome. I just heard that they're going to be on Knowing Bros as a full group as well. Again, awesome stuff. I am I'm pretty excited about some of the Mama stages that we've heard are happening already. So there's going to be a collab stage between the monster rookies, basically a collab stage between Ive, Kepler, Nmix, the Seraphim, and New Jeans.
I'm a little salty that Stacey was left out of this, but it's still
Stacey are a 2-year-old group, not a 1-year-old group.
okay.
So,
Well,
yeah.
still salty.
Yeah. I mean, Stacey are currently not on the lineup. Maybe they'll be added. Who knows? We have a collab stage between Hyolyn and BB, from which no one will be able to watch the rest of the show because everyone will likely be dead.
100%.
Like, we got a Street Man Fighter and Zico stage, which makes sense because his song with them has been hugely popular here as well. Although there was a big scandal about that as well. I guess I'll very lightly mention this. Choreographer was accused, his name is like Vaush or Vash or something. He was accused of plagiarizing who else but 80s, who seems to be at the foot of every plagiarism scandal lately, them or Luna. So you know the move in Hala Hala where they like do like the walking
a dance
thing
move that you've probably seen done at least.
that your dad has probably done on the dance
Yeah,
floor at
yeah.
some point, like the lawnmower dance, you know, like anyway.
Yeah.
So he got, but when you look at it, just the move in isolation, it is very similar. But his story about why he did it and what part of it, and the connection to the rest of the choreography, it makes sense. It does make sense. Whether or not he plagiarized it, I don't know. But a lot of the 80s themselves have actually kind of shown that they agree that they think it's plagiarized. That in dance, if you do this, you know, this like biting move with your arms, it indicates that you think something is plagiarized, and they were doing it about it. I don't know.
It's interesting to me with dance plagiarism. A move like that is something I feel like you've seen many times, like in different dances, and it's like trying to say you plagiarized using the open E string in metal or something, you know? It's
right,
like,
and it's like there's a finite number of things you can do in dance, like.
It's
ultimately
like
some stuff is going to get recycled.
Metallica, Slayer, and Megadeth suing each other for the open E palm muting joke or something, you know?
Um, yeah. The other stages though that were announced recently, we have Idol and Jaurim, which I'm super excited about because Jaurim are really cool, like indie band. They do that famous song 2521, which Yunha covered on Immortal Songs. I think I showed that in a live, like where
I'm
she had like
sure
the
you
full
did. I
choir
feel
and
like if
stuff.
anyone has shilled
Oh,
Yuna to
it's great.
somebody, you've definitely.
um, so that inevitably could be very really cool. I'd love to see whatever they come up with, especially because the like singer songwriter of Jaren Kim Yuna, she's super creative and very well known for her like really intricate lyrics and cool kind of performance style and stuff. So really cool to see what they're gonna do. Hopefully, again, it's not
Does the
disappointing.
Hyolyn BB happen before the Ive rookie collab stage with all the other rookies? Because that
It's on the same day. I don't know what the running order
Okay, because
is.
I need that to happen after, so I can at least see Ive perform with
Yeah.
all the other rookies. I need that to be last because I need to watch the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Um, we also have a very interesting sounding combination here. We have Tiger JK, the incredibly influential, famous rapper, with Sriracha, so Bangchan, Han, and Changbin from Stray Kids, along with Sung Tae Il, who is a South Korean, obviously, music composer. Like he does like soundtracks for films and TV and stuff. Like so, he did the soundtracks for Okja and Parasite, the Bong Joon Ho films, as well as Squid Game. So he's got quite a solid,
It's a good list.
portfolio under
Yeah.
his name. Um, so what are they going to do together? Like a bunch of rappers and a film composer could be very cool, or it could be
He
really weird.
could
I
make
don't
like
know.
a really cool kind of beat maybe out of things he's done or something, you
Yeah,
know? You never know.
I hope they don't just make it like
There's
an
certain
easy bit.
composers like you've seen Hans Zimmer does really cool stuff outside of
Mm,
his film music that he makes. He does actual really cool collaborations and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to see if
yeah,
it's something in that vein of kind of like what Hans Zimmer does.
yeah. And then the last one that has been announced was announced today. Um, is between everyone's famous favorite trot superhero Lim Young Woon, the guy who's always in the Melon Top 10,
Mm-hmm.
um, and Monica from Street Woman Fighter.
Oh, Monica's back, baby. Let's go.
Um, and that one, I'm like, huh, because Monica, I know she's really good at doing very like expressive, interpretive dances to like emotional things. That was where I think that she was at her strongest on the show. Um, and his music is very tends to be quite well. It's like ballad trot combination. That's kind of why he's so popular. He's hitting the nails of the two things that Koreans love: trot and ballads. He put together. Um, and so I'm very curious to see what that'll be. I think it'll be a really cool performance. Hopefully. Um, so yeah, that'll be
we
cool.
I'm most excited about the kind of rookie collab stage thing because I do think like we're getting kind of like a bit of a Eyes One reunion there too, huh? With like Sakura, Chaewon, and Wong Young and Yujin obviously all being together again
We
and
don't know which
performing.
members from which will be on the
Oh
stage.
god, it has
That's
to be
one
those
thing.
members. Come on, you got to do at least half a little mini Eyes
What
One
they really need
reunion
to
there.
do is have JYP because
Yeah.
he has been collecting IZ*ONE members left and right
Oh yeah,
to
because he did
perform his
also
new
do
song
that
with.
challenge with Le Seraphim as well, huh? Not
Yeah,
just Yuri and Won Young.
yeah,
It'll be interesting to see you all of a sudden see like Haewon or someone doing that
yeah.
challenge with him
He
too.
did with
Like,
he got it with Minju as well in the which because she was the MC.
oh my
So
god, so he really is collecting eyes one for
he's
that.
like they're like Pokemon. Yeah, he's good. Next to see him flying to Japan and appearing on a game show with AKB, doing it with his homie.
That'd be pretty hilarious. Nako and Hitomi showing up
Yeah.
in the
The
challenge.
other thing I wanted to mention about it is the voting. So not they have like a whole bunch of different ways that they they do vote, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what category it is as well, they have different voting systems, and it can get kind of fucking confusing. So they have the Mama Professional Panel, they call it, which is made up of domestic and international experts, critics, journalists, whatever. We don't know who.
Yeah.
And they tend to have a weighting of 40 to 70%, which is higher than it used to be, which is
That's a
good.
big chunk.
Um, then they have digital sales, record sales, global music video view counts, and online voting. But for example, Artist of the Year is 40% vote panel, 30% digital sales, 30% record sales, which is why it's kind of always fucked, because certain artists tend to have much higher numbers, and even if none of the judges vote for it, those numbers are so high, it just kind of skews it that way anyway. But Album of the Year, for example, doesn't have is only record sales and the panel, and the best music video is only the video view counts and the panel and stuff like that. So then the worldwide icon and stuff is only view count and online voting.
Well, if we're doing online view counts, Blackpink's gonna like sweep that
Right.
stuff. I mean, what do they get, like 400 million sometimes and things like that.
Yeah.
It's drastically different numbers, you know, from
Yeah.
like
Um,
certain groups. I don't think Twice even in their biggest videos reaches quite the Blackpink level of view count.
no one reaches Blackpink numbers now. But anyway, what's interesting is that after Twitter obviously was acquired by Elon Musk and all the stuff that happened about that, which is hilarious to think this is the kind of thing that has a fallout in the K-pop world, because of the changes to the website, which made the securing of data, the preservation of data impossible, which is like the main reason that he acquired Twitter in the first place is to do with bots collecting data and stuff. Mnet's no longer taking Twitter votes for online voting at all. So, which is hilarious because loads of fandoms were midway through big campaigns. Everyone tweet the hashtag vote for whoever, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, lol, we're not going to count them now, sorry. And so that was kind of fun.
To be honest, I do prefer the voting to being things like, I guess, accomplishments, sales, and videos, and like, I guess, international, whatever. I just, versus like a Twitter vote or something, you know. I do think, at least, because that's just kind of, I just don't feel like that's as substantial of voting as like having it based off
it's
of.
so easily manipulated, and it emerged before they announced that they were fully pulling it away that a lot of groups had been botting and doing shady shit to try and boost their view counts. So like, especially Luna, obviously. But I mean, Dreamcatcher as well were guilty of it. I think of quite a few. Almost everyone was involved in
I'm
some
sure it
way.
happens with every group, so it's
But
universal.
what we'll do is next week before Mama, we'll do our own Mama.
Yep.
We'll
Me and
decide
Oliver will
what
give
should have
you
been, what our
what
predictions
we
are.
believe should be the winners, yes, of the awards, and we will see how close we align to the real award show. We will obviously upload that right before the real Mama happens, but it'll be interesting to see if we are correct on a lot of them, or if it's just our personal biases, you know, that believe certain groups should win. But
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
I suppose that's it then, right?
That's about it. I think we covered.
Yep. You guys can all look forward to that and look forward to telling us how wrong we are.
Yeah.
Although I do think objectively, me and you could probably predict quite a few of the winners.
Yeah, I think our predictions will be a lot easier than trying to come up with who we think should win on our own.
Yeah, I do think it's easier than the Grammys, where you're like, wait, The Weeknd wasn't even invited.
Yeah.
Wait, the guy who sold like more copies than anyone this year and had the biggest song of the year is not at the Grammys. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I suppose that's it, right?
Yeah.
Well, this has been the general news episode, is what I'm gonna say, of the K-pop podcast. I am Honan.
I'm Oliver.
Goodbye.